If you are thinking of a bank that takes care of customers' needs by providing quality services with flexibility, reliability, and innovation, think Trust Bank Limited. With Trust Bank Limited mobile banking, you enjoy services such as balance inquiry, mini statement, funds transfer between accounts, exchange rates, mobile airtime top-up, stop ATM card, checkbook request, and PIN change. Our real-time gross settlement allows the customer to instruct the bank to transfer funds from their account to another account at another bank. Our expertise and experience in international banking is both legendary and the envy of the market. Retail banking, one bank, different amazing packages. Whether you are interested in savings account, current account, time or fixed deposit account, lending or overdraft, our team of dedicated staff is always ready and willing to help you out with your transactions as you wish. Corporate banking. Trust Bank Limited offer the most convenient services for deposit accounts, credit facilities, trade finance, bond and guarantee, and foreign currency account. With e-banking, you can make electronic bill payments and online banking and enjoy 24-hour access to your cash with our ATM. With the largest network of branches and agents, we give you the convenience to receive funds as you please. Trust Bank Limited, proudly Gambian.
fay lempo warugal la si képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga ak ñu fi dëkk bu fekkee ne ci at mi sa koom-koom weesu na $24,000 dalasi mbete weer bu nekk di nga am lu tollu si $2,000 dalasi lempo si la nguur gi di sukkandeku ngir liggéey yokkute réew mi GRA mooy banxaas bu nguuri Gambia sas ngir mu fayeku lépp luy lempo ci biir réew mi ba tax na GRA di yëgal faykati lempo yi ne warugal la pour ñu fay lu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment maanaam bépp contract bu waay joxe te si biir réew mi lañu toog kon xaalis si contract bi ngeen nangotoo war nga cee wàññi ci xayma téeméer bu nekk fukka bu fekkee ne contracto bi dëkkut ci biir réew mi bu boobaa di nga war a wàññi téeméer bu nekk fukka ak juróom lii mooy lempo bu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment lii mooy lempo bi nga xam ne yow mi joxe contract warugal la nga wëlbatiku dem fay ko ci maakaani GRA tax office bu la gën a jege mbete ci banque yi GRA jagleel pour fay lempo war ngaa jébal lempo bi si diiri fukki fan ak juróom gannaaw bi nga wàññee ci xaalis si contract bi amul benn contracto bu ñu teggil fay lempo bi xanaa mu fekk ne nguuri Gambia ñoo ko jégale boole si projet yi nga xam ne mbootaay ndimbali ñoo koy dépense GRA di fayeku lempo ngir yokk.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Bibliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Bibliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high-quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient reliable voice, and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel. Yeah.
This is Kerr Fatou. Fatou.
Welcome to another edition of the show, and today we're here again. With me, I have Oli. Oli Essa Oli Essa is getting married tomorrow. We want to use this opportunity to congratulate him and the new madam, Ilegla Sebi. So, welcome to the show, Oli.
Thank you, Fatou. And before we start, congratulations, Essa, and the new Mrs. Ndiaye. Ñu ngi leen wish sey bu barkel yan na buñu réccu dara luñ ci duggé yan nañ tok sax né suñu yégon ñu def li lu yaga. And yeah, so today we have Honorable Madi Ceesay again. So we say welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Honorable, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
After the election, actually, we spoke. You know, Oli Hamga, when we were having our series of shows during the election period, we had Madi, we had other people. Say I still won't say who here because people made pronouncements here, and we still want to talk to them because after election to look at what happened, how things went, and Madi was one of those people who a lot of people said, even his own party, Madi is not a winnable candidate. He said, I am going to win, and he won. Madi, welcome back to Kerr Fatou.
Thank you very much, and I thank God and praise the people of Serekunda West for bringing me back to the parliament.
Yeah. And we will talk about parliament. We'll talk about elections briefly, but we'll talk about parliament. But I want to tell people, if you're watching this show and you want to support Kerr Fatou, now we have our stars that enable. You can send us stars. If you like Fatou, you can send us 200 or 300. If you don't like Oli, don't send her stars. So so you can support the network also. But Oli, today we are going to talk about the National Assembly. The new assembly has been inaugurated. The new members all in place. There have been a lot of inductions, and we'll talk about that, but also we'll talk about, of course, the trending issues that have been happening. The allowance they approved for themselves. We'll talk about all of that. But today, obviously, we're talking about the National Assembly.
And I think, Fatou, it would be a very interesting and important discussions because the National Assembly, as it's a very important arm of government, and that's where all laws are enacted and all these things are happening at the National Assembly. And we've seen, as you said, things the trend right now. There are allowances, all the noise that are being made with people not actually even getting the facts right or knowing exactly why these allowances are there, the comparison that we always have, people comparing our National Assembly with other countries, and those are the things that I personally don't feel that is fair. But then we just go back a little about the National Assembly, how like we have the members that have already been sworn in, and we've seen like the different committees that have already been set up. And then I would like the Honorable to actually just brief us in some of the committees, because we've seen and heard how some of them had not issues, but people would object to certain members being into certain committees, thinking that they don't have some are saying they don't have the knowledge, some are saying they don't have the moral authority to be there, they don't have they're not supposed to be there. But you being in Parliament and knowing what constitutes a committee and who should be there, who should not be there, and as the Speaker said, he said everybody who is in this Parliament is qualified to be in a committee. So I would want to know what is Mr. Ceesay's opinion on that statement, that everybody who is in this Parliament is qualified to sit in a committee.
I absolutely agree with the Honorable Speaker, because you only can be a member of any committee, because you are not a member of Parliament. So there are bars for people to go through and get elected. Once you file in your nomination papers, the IEC look at your qualifications. If they are satisfied that you are somebody who has passed the test of the Constitution, you're somebody who can contest, they allow you to contest. So that is where you first passed the ability to belong to any committee. So once you pass that test, you go to the people and they choose you among 5, 6, 7, depending on how many people contested in a particular constituency. You elected into the parliament, you take your oath. That's the primary thing. All other things is secondary. Me being elected is primary. Now, whether I should be in the Human Rights Committee or in the Environment Committee is secondary. But I can safely say that I absolutely agree with the Honorable Speaker to say that whoever is a member of Parliament can be in any committee.
So let's look at what has been happening in the National Assembly. What we saw first was when after the, how do you call it, after this inauguration ceremony, the swearing in, we saw the setting up of committees. What we saw publicly was really very contentious, and there was a lot of arguments going on, but later on committees were all set up. And after that we saw induction, and then people, especially the new parliamentarians, and of course later on also we saw now, especially the FRAP, right, were briefing the public enterprises and government agencies about what is happening. Give us an overview at this point, what is happening at the Assembly?
First and foremost, the first committee that is set up, which is by way of the Constitution, is the Selection Committee, which I happen to be a member of the committee. That's the first committee, and that committee is the one that is responsible of distributing the rest of the members into various committees. So I'm a member of the committee because it clearly says that the majority leader can nominate 2 other persons to serve in the Selection Committee. The minority can nominate 1 person to serve in the Selection Committee. It becomes a committee of 5. And it should be chaired by the Speaker, unless we have support from the Office of the Clerk. So that's how it starts. Then the Selection Committee then looking at people's backgrounds, because every member of Parliament submits a CV, so that people to have a fair idea of what is your background. I can't be in the Finance Committee because I have no finance background. That's why I'm not there. But I can serve in the Human Rights Committee because by profession I'm a journalist.
Does that just confirms what Oli said? You just cannot be in any committee if you don't have the requisite background or you don't have knowledge, whilst there are other people who have those knowledges.
No, but what I have confirmed, as said by the Speaker, is anybody who is a member of Parliament is qualified to be in the committees. Now it depends on what committee.
What committee?
But even there, you can see somebody. Maybe you can have a couple of people, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, having the same background. That doesn't mean you should put all of them in that committee. No. You will put them in different committees. You can be in a committee that you don't even have any idea about, but then they are either by virtue of your sect, because we look at the gender, we look at the party representation in various committees. So these are some of the guidelines we use. Your background, party representation, gender. This is what we use as guidelines to put people in various committees. And that is what we did at our first sitting. So, but we are always supported by the experts, that is the staff of the Office of the Clerk. But we are the authorities to say yes or no. But they only help us in doing those things, because they will run through the CVs and then advise us. And when we do our job as selection, distribute people, it's not final. This is taken back to the plenary. And if they approve it, it stands.
The argument the new MPs brought was you guys selected, especially the Selection Committee, you guys put yourself in all the luxurious committees, the ECOWAS, the Pan-African, the AU, all those ones that has a lot of traveling, that has a lot of benefits, and most of them, the argument was, oh, they don't have the experience. But all of you started somewhere. So why was that? Is that a criteria in those committees, or you guys just, you know, like they said, you rewarded yourselves?
You know, we have 58 members in the parliament, and the international parliamentary committees is only 3, with 5 representation. Here we're talking about 15 members out of the 58 into those committees. And what I have found in the National Assembly is that it's sort of a tradition that the majority and the minority are always in the ECOWAS parliament. For what reason, I don't know. When I went to parliament 5 years ago,
that's what you found.
That's what I found. And it repeated itself when I was in the selection committee. And I was put in the ACP parliamentary committee, and that was my first time going to the parliament. So it's not an issue of experience, not at all. Like I said, we look at party representation and we look at backgrounds as well. But for me, like I always say, being in committees is secondary. Primarily, when I'm elected, that's my primary, that's what I wanted to attain. I'm a member of parliament, period. Whatever else, whatever committees I go into is secondary, as far as I'm concerned. Whether I'm there or not, that doesn't matter. What really matters for me most, and which I fought for hard, is to get to the parliament.
And then we, the people of Serekunda West, are also waiting on the promises that you've made. I remember clearly, because I am from Serekunda West, and I did talk about...
Did you vote for him?
Well, no, since basic balloting,
did you vote for him? He refused to say
that, yeah.
But I did not vote.
All right.
Yeah, so we really had expectations. There were a few things that we expected to see, which we did not see. But then again, congratulations, we've given you another 5-year term. And then these were promises that I can't remember now on top of my head what they were, but I'll definitely go back to the records. So whenever we have you again, I can
remind you, I remember everything I said.
And we're hoping that...
I had promised that I'll push the agenda of amending the Rent Act.
Yes.
I also said I'll push the agenda of stabilizing the prices by coming up with an act. And I always qualify it by saying it is one thing as a member of parliament to push these agendas, but you alone cannot do it. Yeah. You must get the numbers to get the support for approval.
Well, Madi, this is the right time to do that. As we speak, everything in the world is expensive. But in the Gambia, things are extraordinarily expensive.
Yes.
Bread is what? $15. Gas is going up every single day. Every single thing is expensive.
And salaries are still where they were.
No, well, not for them. What are you doing right now at this moment? Have you started the process of that? And what approach are you going to take if you start?
The process that I've started with the Rent Act first, and because the next session will be in September. And what I have started doing is to get petitions signed by Gambians, not only Serekunda West, because rent is not for Serekunda West alone. And these are the petitions that is going to be the foundation of the agenda. Come September, these are some of the petitions that I will table and argue my case, and also start to talk to, because coming up with a law, you need to get people to help you draft, citizens behind it. Thank God the parliament has a legal department now, that any member that wants to come up with any bill, especially private bill, you start it from there. But if you wish so, you can do it outside and bring it to the parliament. So that's where I am, but I'm quite sure by September, when the first session starts, people will start to see how far I have gone, and then from there I also pick on the issue of stabilizing the prices. As we go, the public will be informed as to the progress, challenges if there are any. I will not keep quiet over them.
Sorry, with regards to petitions, how many signatures do you need to ensure that a petition will be brought to
it is not a condition. You can go without a petition.
No, not as National Assembly members, but let's say somebody from outside.
Let's just say the
petition you don't need.
What's on Gambia?
You don't need a certain number of signatures?
No.
For the National Assembly to actually hear your case and
no, you don't need a single signature. We have a petition committee.
Yeah.
So that if you are aggrieved
yeah.
and you want to bring your case before them,
as a citizen.
yeah, as a citizen, you write a letter and put your case there, submit it, and they will invite you, ask you questions, and then if need be, get the people who are concerned, and they will go through it. And then they conclude with their recommendations.
So who vets these petitions? For example, if let's say the Watson Gambia has sent in a petition, I'm sure you heard about it, to this clerk of the assembly. Now, when it gets to the clerk, what is the process? What happens? Who processes that? Who makes the determination that yes, this petition, is worth looking into, is worth investigating?
In fact, the office of the clerk is not the first point of entry.
Oh.
If any citizen has a complaint, you want to write a petition, you address your petition to the chairperson of the petition committee in National Assembly.
And who's that?
Well, I can tell you them, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Honorable Swaibuture is the chairperson of the petition committee.
Okay.
But all you need is just chairman, petition committee, National Assembly.
Okay.
It reaches him. So I don't know, going through the clerk has no hand in any of these things. He has no authority.
Okay.
He is the administrative head, facilitate our jobs, but we are the decision makers.
No.
Not the clerk.
That's interesting to know, because I think it's like practice in other countries where before an issue is brought to the National Assembly, there's certain signatures that are needed for the petition to get there, and then it will be discussed and talked about. And I think that's what the practice that people were trying to do, because I've seen a petition with about 9,000 signatures, and they've said they have actually submitted to the clerk of the National Assembly. It's to do with the corruption, case that's
it can be the idea of the
Yeah.
person doing it, but it's not a condition. Like the approach I want to take is not a condition for me to gather petitions and then table it before the parliament. No, these are ideas that they are innovations that people can go about it, but it doesn't need any number.
And how do we expect, like, how many times would the National Assembly sit? And in terms of sitting, what would we see things different from the National Assembly we had previously? Like, considering that you've been there, you're now here, and you've seen the new people that have come in. Like, for us sitting far and we're watching, we've seen that there are certain people that looks like every day they have something to discuss or to argue. They're not the ones that would just vote yes, no. So do you think this National Assembly would definitely, voting would not be partisan? It looks more like voting would really be based on issues, based on things that, they think that this is what the people are expecting, rather than, because we all know that the previous National Assembly, people have complained that voting most of the time was partisan voting. So how do you see this?
That is people's opinion, and they have a right to that.
But how do you
I can tell you that as per our constitution, we meet 4 times a year.
Okay, 4 times.
That is the statutory meetings. That is, we meet quarterly. But then the committees meet far more than that, and the bulk of the work is done at committee level. Almost 75% of the work of the National Assembly members is done at committee level. Then the rest is done at the plenaries. As to whether this parliament, the 6th legislature, people will see something different, I would say yes, because this is a complete different set of people. And for the first time, this is a legislature that is balanced. There is no party with absolute majority in this parliament. Yes, by figures, you can call NPP as the majority, but it's an insignificant majority because it's only 18 as to the second party in position, which is 15. So its difference is only 3. You have 12 independents on the other side. You have another party with 4 members of parliament, another party with 2 members of parliament. So it's a very balanced parliament. I can definitely assure you that it's going to be a different parliament.
If there's no brown envelope.
Brown envelopes, well, as far as I am concerned, with or without does not change my position.
Of course.
I wish the president gives me $1 million in brown envelopes.
Madi never shies away from that. But no, Madi, let's talk about actually what is trending, why the National Assembly is trending right now. It's because the Standard newspaper did a story on the new salary structure of the National Assembly. I want to put on point that this was approved by the last National Assembly, right?
The fifth legislature.
The fifth legislature is not, because I see people coming after these National Assembly members saying, the new ones, I'm not talking about Madi, I mean the other new ones who just found
I'm also new.
No, you are part of the ones, you are part of the people.
The fifth legislature, yes.
But then, you know, this was approved by the fifth legislature. It is the new salary structure. Now, tell us, what prompted this increment of salary and allowances by the fifth legislature?
You know, the parliament had its autonomy during the fifth legislature. Previously, we were under the Ministry of Fisheries, because the Minister of Fisheries and Parliamentary Affairs.
Yes.
So we did not have autonomy. So we fought for that, and that was not only the last year that we fought for it. We started fighting for autonomy since 2017, but it only materialized in the last years of the term of the fifth legislature.
Yeah.
So once we got our autonomy, now it's time budgeting. At budgeting time now, we as members of the National Assembly, as an institution, also has to prepare its budget. And during the preparation of budgets, there are bilaterals. The head of the institution will table his budget, but first and foremost, the finance minister will give ceiling to all the departments that will come up with budgets. This is your ceiling. So between zero to that ceiling, that you see what your expenditures are going to be, and so on and so forth. If it is an income generating body, you also see, look at your development projects as well, then you fit it into the budget. And then this will be subjected to the relevant committee before all the budgets are pieced together. So the authorities of the assembly came up with their suggestions, bearing in mind that they have a ceiling. I'm not part of the authorities, but then we are the consumers, because finally when they piece everything together, it gets to the FPAC and all put together, and we have one budget for the Gambia.
Yeah.
And that's where you have these salary structures, which includes basic salaries and other allowances.
Yeah.
So that's it, like any other ministry.
Yeah.
So you bring your proposals, if they are accepted, becomes and passed, it becomes a law.
Yeah.
So whatever expenditure we are doing now is legitimate and legal, because it's coming from the consolidated form.
I mean, I didn't want to, I don't know how it feels for me to talk about this, because I had made my opinion known already on the social media, because I worked at a parastatal, and I know how the salary scheme is at parastatals. And I do also know what the allowance scheme is at parastatals. Of course, we know what the allowance scheme is at government. We have seen the allowance of a minister on Western Gambia, and we have seen all of that. And my argument, when I put out my argument, was this: if the National Assembly members who oversee all these, they check the ministers, they check the parastatals and orders. If they are earning less than those people, then what becomes of the institution? How are they going to be independent to hold them accountable? That was one argument that I put out. But I do also know only that, for example, I think the argument more was about the 100,000 clothing allowance, which is for 5 years, meaning you get 1,700 or 600 a month. I was talking to Ceesay, your friend, and he's
not my friend, point of correction.
Your friend. And he said, he called me, actually he kept on inboxing me, I didn't listen. He called me, he's like, for me it's the moral issue. And I do understand what he was saying. And the argument was, oh, the teachers are striking, and why should National Assembly take this? Why should, when the teachers are striking, they should have allocated that money to the striking teachers? What about the minister allocating his money to the striking nurses? You know what I'm saying? So for me, that is my argument. And I had this argument on my platform personally as an individual, because I feel sometimes these things are important. But you also know, what is your take on this allowance issue?
Okay, for me, it's not even about the National Assembly members or somebody who works at GPA or somebody who works at the government. For me, people need to understand one thing. like there's salary scales, there's salary schemes, and there's allowances that people are entitled to when you work in certain places. So for me, that's what I said. I said it's not about 100,000 that they're giving them. For me, it's not even about the money. For me, I know institutions, most institutions in Gambia, they provide housing allowances, they provide clothing allowance, and they provide transport allowance.
And responsibility
and
allowance.
now we have even some who have added telephone allowance.
Yeah.
So for me, this is what the salary scheme, the allowance incentives is in Gambia, in most institutions. So for me, it's about that. It's not about handpicking National Assembly by saying that they should have given the money to farmers. That's not even an argument that makes any sense. It's just like me telling somebody, don't take all your salary, take some bit of your salary and give it to this person. We need to understand one thing. Let's look at our domestic workers. They do most of the work, the difficult and hard work at our houses and even in our offices. But they're paid way less than everyone else. And you have the managing director who is up there, who's paid most of the time fine. They do the policies and most of the thinking, but the hard work, they really don't do all of it.
Yeah.
So that's just how life is in general. That's just how salary scale is in general. So for me, the argument could be, why don't the National Assembly come up with bills or ask and see how salary increment can be made better for, let's say the junior rank people or the middle, achievement.
Yeah.
How can these benefits be increased for these people? Because we understand housing is expensive. We understand all of these things like that. But then handpicking and saying National Assembly this. And again, it goes to the newspaper. I think Standard newspaper at some point I know they're looking for sensation. I know they're looking for a
Don't make Lamin Cham come for me.
Yes, but I know they're looking for a headline.
Don't make Lamin Cham come for me.
For a headline, but most of the time their headlines are misleading. And then people like Ceesay as well have to stop Dega Karak Damana and start running. I'll talk about it at Bantaba, where he has less than 100 people watching anyways.
Okay.
So he would run and say, this is something I would discuss tonight at Bantaba. Get the facts. Don't pick on National Assembly or pick on Oli or pick on Fatou. Try to understand how those incentives work in Gambia. Try to push these National Assembly members anyways to fight for the domestic workers, for example, to fight for the police if you think their salaries are not good, to fight for these incentives for other people to get it.
Don't you think this has opened a new conversation? It has opened a new conversation, and it's good that we're talking about it. For example, we do know, to be honest, there are some other crazy allowances in our salary schemes. And then if you are high up there, you are a managing director, you are a director, you are a minister, you are the president or other positions, you get these privileges. But when the people that are in the lower cadre don't get enough incentives, they don't get any incentive. Is it about time we look at these things? Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen, especially the elected officials, people will come after you because we elect you. And when we put you into those positions, people will say, we didn't elect you to enrich yourself. We elected you to better our lives. Do you think there should be a conversation about reforms? It brings us to the same question, reforms, and even bettering the salary scale of the other people, not just us, the people that are high up there. Because to be honest, those are the people enjoying. I worked at parastatals. A managing director gets a loan of $2 million, and he only pays 50% of it. The company pays the other 50 for them. That's why this was not strange to me. You are a director, you get a $1 million. You pay $500,000, and the company pays $500,000 for you. You are a manager, you get 500,000. The company pays 250 for you. You pay 50. It's based on what your grade is. And you get, some people will get more than 30,000 or 20,000 monthly fuel coupon. They get responsibility allowance. They get travel allowance. They get all of these professional allowance. All of your allowances you think of, they have it. But when it comes to the junior cadres, they don't have any of this. Sometimes, the people have to even go get somebody's car insurance just to be able to get transport allowances. So these are the differences. So you go to companies, it's like this. The salary scale is like this. Now, maybe this has opened up a conversation for us to look at those people below. Because that's the reason why people are coming after you. The majority of the people that I see that are complaining, what they are saying is a moral issue. Right now, the health officers are on strike because of unpaid allowances. They are working in hospitals, right? They are not working. Because of unpaid allowances, they are not working. And now we get to see the National Assembly getting 100,000 in code for clothing allowance. So, you know, people are saying it's a moral issue. What do you think should be the solution to this?
Well, I will come to the issue of moral. Those who are saying it's moral issue, I don't agree to that. You see, I think the problem of the Gambia is people don't manage resources well.
Yeah.
The Minister of Health is given a budget that they come to the Parliament with, approved budget with all these allowances. So if workers don't get their allowances paid, it is not because it is not allocated. It's because it is not disposed, it is not managed properly. That's the fact of the matter.
But who?
There is no ministry that do not have a budget.
Yeah.
And they have all these budgets like that. For example, some will say, yes, they are paying clothing allowance 100,000 for 5 years, and they're talking about farmers don't have fertilizer.
Yeah.
In the current budget,
Yeah.
if you go to the centralized services, input budget line, there is $200 million for fertilizer. In the same budget line, you have $300 million for seeds and things like that, just to support agriculture. But some who do not know this, the members of the parliament are giving themselves $100,000 allowance, and they don't care about the farmers. When these things are in the budget, I think people should start to do research before they come up with issues. Those of our people who call themselves intellectuals should get a copy of the budget, go through these departments and go through their budget lines, know what National Assembly has allocated to these ministries before they jump on something which is just like 100,600 if you spread it per month over the 60-month period, $1,600 is clothing allowance. And this is a one-off payment. If you put it all together, I think it's just $500,000. Yeah. $500,000. But we've allocated over $500 million to agriculture, just to improve agriculture. If agriculture is not progressing, then we must ask, what are the people who are the custodians of that budget doing about it? We must ask, what is the people that are holding the budget of the health ministry doing about those unpaid workers that are sitting down? The monies are there in their budget. Why are they not paying them? So it's an issue of managing the resources, not allocation. Simple as that. For me, I really don't support the issue of moral. What is the moral aspect of us having these allowances?
I'm trying to understand.
But don't you agree?
What I also want to, you said something that you say it should open up a discussion. Yes. What I think could be the solution. What I think could be the solution for Gambia now is for us as National Assembly members, for this period, especially during the next budget session, we should put our foot down and make sure that we have what is called how am I going to say it again? Basic incomes. For example, like there is a minimum wage. Minimum wage.
Yes.
You look at people's living. What does it take a man to live in the Gambia? You factor into his all these high skyrocketing prices of basic commodities. Factor their prices, factor the house rent, factor the health issues, put them all together and say, how much can somebody survive? What amount can we survive with? And peg our salaries to that as the minimum. So that nobody is paid beyond that. So if nobody is paid beyond minimum salary, that means every salaried Gambian can live at least a standard life.
So a lot of people will tell you, that our budget cannot support that. Even when the government came up with the 100% salary increment, a lot of economists will tell you that our budget cannot support. Maybe we should just say cut down on the allowances of the higher public servants and give the younger ones. Because obviously also we have to be able to do things that we can.
Yes, Fatou, I quite agree. But you see, I disagree to say that we cannot do this, we cannot do this. You see, all the monies we are talking about in budget, it's not physically lying down there. Not at all. Budget is just estimate that I want to spend this for a period of 12 months. The figure is there. Then you look at the income side of it. How are you going to raise funds to meet that? You look at all your taxes that you are going to pay and look at outside other interventions. Then if there is a gap, then we call that a budget deficit. Yes, I know our resource envelope is not as fat as that of Ghana, but we are not also paying as Ghana. Our resource envelope is not as fat as that of Senegal and neighbors, but we are not paying like Senegalese. We are paying according to the size of our resource envelope. So there is nothing we can say we cannot do about it. Minimum wage could be something that is workable in this country.
For me, I definitely agree with what you said. We need to have a minimum wage and put all these things that you have mentioned into consideration. At least everybody can live a life where you know that on how to, find this, find that. But again, to what Fatou said, when we had the increment of 100%, I think, when you increase salaries 100%, you're still nothing much is the same, because the person who was getting 20 is getting 40, and the person who's getting 2 is getting 4.
The gap is not close.
The gap is not close.
That brings us to having a reform.
Yes. So what you do is, there's certain levels you don't get 100%.
That is why during that session, my agreement is, if we want to close the gap, it should not be across the board.
It should not be across the board, yes.
If it is across the board, the gap is still there.
I have worked in an institution where what they did was senior staff were giving about 1% increment, and the junior staff were giving way more. So that,
like 40–50%.
That
then the gap
increased their salaries, and then the senior staff were still at where they were.
Above, but then just different.
So there's some of the allowances that really we can look into. There's some of the things that we have managers benefiting that I think it's something, as Fatou said, we can look into and try to bring down. But as you said, if we have a minimum wage, we've seen minimum wages happening in other countries where okay, at least no matter what, this is how much I would expect every month, I can survive on this and that. Then we cut some allowances. But the norm of what institutions pay, I think people who are making an argument is, as you said, it's not about moral.
Moral, no.
Because for me, as I keep saying, it's not about the MPs. It's about this is what Gambia does.
Yes,
so now let's look at that. Is it right or wrong? That's what we maybe need to look at, but not pick on this institution. We have institutions here who are paying salaries over 100,000 a month to 200,000 a month to individuals. Yes.
Yeah.
And that same institution have some people getting $8,000. Yeah. So you want to tell me that if I am
and within the same system, we have people getting clothing allowance.
Exactly. And some even
I don't know. That's why there is no moral issue in this.
Fuel allowance, transport allowance, internet. Some people have internet for their homes. Some have DSTV paid for at their home. So these are things that you benefit as somebody working in certain institutions. Yes. Do we have to look at it? Yes. Because I think the people below need to, at least have a decent wage.
I think the agreement is here that definitely we need to look at our
But you cannot tell me cut from Madi and give to farmers. That doesn't make much sense.
But Madi, you said something very important here, that when you check the budget, you have over 200 million for farmers, for fertilizer. When you check the Ministry of Health, there's provision for payment of allowances. Now, if these things are not properly done, who holds these people accountable?
The Parliament has a key role because we have the oversight function to do, which is one of very key important roles. That is why anytime something happens, the relevant committee acts immediately.
But we have seen the fertilizer issue. Right now, the farmers are complaining that the fertilizer price is high. What has the National Assembly been doing? I mean, the fifth legislation, I'm going to be honest though, people said Gambians will be crying loud about issues, and you guys, you don't make any emergency callings for things. When things happen, like you go to other countries, the National Assembly will call for an extraordinary session because something serious is happening. But have you guys ever done something like that? Especially the rainy season.
When you talk about an extraordinary session,
I don't know whether that's the right
no, you are right. But when you talk about that, it is not the the Parliament that can have that authority to summon emergency extraordinary session. Usually, extraordinary session comes with cost, but it can be two ways. It can come from the government, but if there's a need, Parliament, the National Assembly Authority, if they feel there's a need for the whole Assembly to talk about something, they can call for it. But like I said, 95 or 75% of the work of Parliament is done at committee level. That's why when it happens, the relevant committee will get up. And when that committee gets up, it's just equally the same as a whole National Assembly, because they will act, they will recommend, and it's binding. So yes, we can have it Perhaps if we want to do certain things that need a certain number of the parliamentarians, like, you know, in some laws or things that you need 3/4. If we need that kind of, you can call for an extraordinary session. But otherwise, the committees can handle any issue in this country. The Agriculture Committee, I was made to understand when it happened, they had an emergency committee meeting and they summoned the minister and the technocrats. I can't go too much into that because I'm not part of it, and I only ran into the chairman of the committee and I asked him, how far are you going with this issue of fertilizer?
Yeah.
But Fatou is amazing. Gambians, people who have the authority, either they don't want to take the blames, as a result, people suffer. But that fertilizer, this fertilizer issue should not have been an issue, because this fertilizer for 2022 was bought since last year. Where is the fertilizer? It is sold. Who sold it? Within the ministry. And I was given clear evidence that information that the former minister had the list. He was supplied with all the list of the culprits that sold these fertilizers away.
And nothing was done about it.
Yeah, so I told the chairman of the Agri Committee that they have to do something about this. Yeah, it's a necessity. These are things that we need to face the facts. Because this fertilizer was bought way back. You know, the president was on record. Or the minister was on record. It was the minister, not the president, sorry. She was on record to say that we will not have any issues next year because we've bought enough for this year and next year. So where is this year's fertilizer? So it's not an issue of not allocated. That's why I said if you go to the centralized services in the budget, these input budget lines are there in two categories, 200 million and 300 million.
But, Honorable, I think Bente, something is still missing. And what that thing that is missing is people are not seeing people being held accountable for these things. Yeah. People are just hearing us talking about there's a committee here, there's a committee. People need to see National Assembly doing something.
It's
missing. Yeah.
I quite agree with you, because these committees have powers. They have powers. If the committee sits, it's like a court. The chairperson has the power of a high court judge. You can force people to come and bring their documents. Yes. You can call them to come and come to the meeting. If they failed, it's at contempt. So really, I think it's high time we see action taken.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, people have to be courageous enough and say, you know what, Oli, I am going to hold you accountable.
Oh yes.
And but then that's National Assembly dal mankena. Ñun ñep li ñoo yaakar ci National Assembly we don't want ñoominen saying you're not entitled to this, you're entitled to that, you're not qualified.
But Only it's too early to judge the 6th legislature.
Okay,
I told you,
okay, then,
this 6th legislature will definitely be a difference.
We believe so.
Because the composition there.
Yes, people believe so.
And even the guys, the members, the new members.
The new members.
These new members.
Yeah.
Sometimes I sit and watch.
Yeah.
I no.
Because what happened is
I see some people like Cerekunda.
Something will happen.
He is a fire.
Because what happened is they were sitting where we are sitting.
Yeah.
And they were saying the same things we are saying. We need.
Now they are there.
Now they there. People are hopeful that this action we would see it, and then we're urging them. Let them hold people accountable. Let these people come and tell us if these things are allocated, if these things have been bought, and we have a list of people who are misusing. We need to set examples.
Very well. Otherwise,
it's about time.
Otherwise, the wrongs will keep on going wrong because no sample is set.
Exactly.
And the ordinary person suffers. Yes. For example, when the nurses strike, who suffers? It's us.
They said if two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly.
Yeah.
If those sit on strike, my poor Madi would be on the sick bed, nobody attempting to.
Yeah.
He can just go off like that and die.
Yeah.
Because he's not getting the right treatment at the right time.
Yes.
The patients.
I'm under National Assembly Vidal. Expect now, as you said, let me not. I'm still hopeful.
Yeah, be hopeful. It's just too early. We were just few months in office.
Yeah, so let's
and
see.
The committees are just established, and now they have what we did. That reminds me again, because you said, what are we?
What were you doing? Yes.
Now, so when the committees were set up, now all the committees are fully established. The committees for the past 2 weeks were doing their plans of work for 1 year. And because there's different committees and people belong to different, we have to synchronize the plans so that where they overlap, we see how things can work, because so many committees.
Yeah.
So that is done. So all the work plans are finalized now. By next week, committees will take off from the ground and start to do their work. So I'm pretty sure the remaining days of June and July is pure committee work, because the plan for this is just June and July, because August is our recess. All members of parliament go on leave, but the office remain, the clerk and the staff remain. But for us, we all go together in August, so that by September we'll start a 4th session. So work that has been done in June and July, the committees will have to compile their reports, and then that's where you will see actions. So by September sessions, obviously you will see actions.
So we wait till September and see what actions we will see.
Yeah. Okay. Because all the committees will come up with their recommendations and reports. Sure.
And finally, Madi, before you go, you know, we didn't have you here when the TRRC report came out. You are one of the victims. What would you say, the government-wide people, were you satisfied with the outcome of the government?
Yes, I am satisfied. At least for the first time, I'm satisfied at the Barrow government. Really. Because they have started even action. They've started notifying people.
They have started written to.
I am very hopeful that the Barrow administration will really mean business as far as the TRRC reports are concerned. And I have no doubt about that they will go forward. Really. And after all, this TRRC was set up by Barrow's government. Yeah. So
what's your take on the VP statement? For me, I think it's normal. I think he just said what everybody have been doing at their houses, and I think him being the number 2, talking.
My first reaction on my Facebook timeline is, if words are translated into actions, then that's good.
Okay.
But unless those words are not translated, it's just rhetoric.
A lot of people said, I mean, the vice president was in cabinet for almost 5 years. Yes. He headed one of the most controversial higher education. Some people will tell you, like Esther would say, nothing was actually done in the department. So for him to speak like that, yes, it's welcoming, but really.
But that's
his new capacity. His new capacity.
I've heard some people who worked with him as well, who have said how he has transformed the ministry, how he had been working with GTTI and all these things. So it's always
but have you seen the transformation? What happened at GTTI?
No, I wouldn't really know.
I'm just I'm an outsider person. I'm asking.
I wouldn't know. It's the same.
What happened?
And somebody else saying.
What happened that he brought a bill to the parliament so that GTTI would transform into a university. For, I think they deal
electrical
with
engineering.
And then there's another school also.
Gambia College, I think.
Gambia College, things like that. I think those are the transformations the person is.
Yeah. So some had said that he has really done well.
It's a faculty. It should be a faculty.
So for me, because I don't know much about government and their institutions, I've really even never worked in them, so I wouldn't really say much. But for me, it's the argument that people are saying he did this, he was holding this, and he didn't do much. Why saying this now? So I think how, Honorable is saying, we have done past the 5th legislature, we are coming to 6th, give people chances. So I think for him to be VP, this is the first time we have heard a VP stand up and say these things. So for me, we're moving forward. We've seen, when we had the Janneh Commission, a lot of people were not even happy with the white paper, with the Janneh Commission. But now we are moving forward. We've seen the TRRC. We have some people who are still not convinced. But overall, in general, it's now different. People are saying we're moving forward. So for him too, 5 years ago, people might not be happy with him, no problem. But now he has stood up on national TV, talking to his ministers and said all of this. I think I would go with what Madi said. Let's see if these words would definitely put into action. But to take back and say, when he was here, what did he do? That would be a very different opinion, because some people would say he did well, and some would say he did not do well. So now let's see with this one that he openly said, it's time to work. We have to do this. Let's see what he would do. So
in fact, with the TRRC report, it's a whole report. So it will take us many years to do all. This is just about suspension, sacking. Reparation is not coming. The victims are working on the reparation bill to see how the reparation should be done. And, there will be prosecutions. And, prosecution does not take overnight. So it will be a long way. Don't be surprised as by next year. But we haven't seen them prosecute X and Y. But it's going to come because I think the government is determined.
The government is determined. Well, today we are not going to stay long because obviously, Madi, we just had to drag Madi on the show. And but I think it's important we have this conversation because, like I said, this has opened a new conversation. And I think, like I said, we should have HR experts here. We should have like people in government who knows the salary scale of government officials, so we can look at this. And of course, government as well. When they talk about reforms, it's not just about security sector. It's not about all that, but it's also about our incentive schemes, how it should be the national cake, how it should be shared equally. Because I think those
not probably equally, but fairly.
Fairly, let's say fairly then. Let's say
it cannot be shared equally.
It cannot be shared equally. The rich will always be richer, and us the poor will always be poor. But it's important to have a fair. Only fun and I want to say, Oli, guy, the people are really upset about what you said about Sehu Sedili, but Oli has a very good joking relationship with Sehu.
I don't
so
even
she was
Sehu do a comeback.
She was really playing. They always have that. Sehu and Sisla, they have a very, very joking relationship.
They would write a whole status on me and tag me on it.
Like, Wali Junior, thank you very much.
But don't mind Sehu. Say it's a Serekunda. Don't mind him.
He runs with things. He runs with things, and I know right when I live here, he would have his timeline. Only Kerr Fatou, nothing. So I'm waiting for his comeback. And you know, he tells me I'm always on Mamrin Jai side, and I keep telling him Mamrin Jai is more educated than you. So and then he tells me whatever. But yeah, this is me and
they have a very joking relationship.
So thank you very much for coming, and as Fatou said, it opens a new conversation. I think definitely we need to have that conversation. We need to look at the salary scale. We need to look at the incentives. Let's not pick on who is getting what. For me, that is not relevant. For me, I work with people who I think I am more qualified than they are. They earn way more than me. Some people I am more qualified than them, and they're more qualified than me, and I earn way more than them. So for me, it's not about the individuals or institutions, but it's a general discussion that we need to have. Whoever is responsible for creating these salary scales and incentives for government, I think they need to sit down, go back to the drawing board, look at it, and come up with things that the average Gambian
and let them have at the back of their mind the minimum wage.
And I think this minimum wage, I've never really thought about it, but definitely it's very, very, very important, because you cannot have somebody having a salary of $2,000. There was one time, and I keep saying this, I saw a job advert. They were looking for a cleaner in government, and the per annum salary was if I do the maths, it was about $900 a month.
Terrible.
This I saw on a newspaper.
Terrible.
A few years ago. But then I said, and you expect that person to not come and be selling wonjo and running errands for people? Of course they would do that, because if they do run for Fatou gives them money, Oli gives them money. You expect to pay me $900 a month, and you think I can survive on $900 a month. So definitely we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to stop talking about these are moral issues. They're not moral issues.
They're not moral at all.
These are not moral issues.
So
my salary has nothing to do with moral issues. I work for it.
It's your entitlement.
Exactly. So for me, that is it. And Sehu Sedili, I know I'm expecting you on Bantaba today, so I will be watching where your 100 followers would be writing comments, saying anything you want to say. But yeah.
Madi, where are you going to close?
Well, I'm grateful to your show. It's a platform that helps, to enlighten people. And I think you're doing a good job. You need to push this kind of conversation, because these are the things that will lead to actions. Because one thing we have picked up here, this issue of reviewing the entire salary scale and looking at having the minimum wage at the back of our mind. This, if I were you, it's going to be an agenda that you will be pushing, and it will happen. So I thank you, viewers, and also saying big thanks to Serekunda West for
sending you back to the National Assembly. And we'll get you back here to look at some of the things you promised.
No, but it's only two I said.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah, the other ones I said I will represent them. The issues in the constituency, I have to take them on board.
Can we just ask Mr. Honorable one thing? We want you to bring forward a bill that would create a discussion that would, this minimum wage that you're even talking about, maybe we'll ask you that, you get back to the National Assembly, let it be your bill that you
my baby.
You will table.
An agenda that you want to
could
push.
be an agenda. I'm not too sure, but I can ask. I'm not too sure whether it could be a bill, but then let's
start the conversation.
Let's start the conversation.
Okay.
Let's start the conversation.
Very fruitful program there.
And we will also be very much by your side to support and push that agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
Any media coverage or any support that you need when it comes to the media.
I promise I'll take.
I think these things are very important.
I promise I'll check this agenda up.
Yeah.
Take this agenda up because the agenda it could be taken up by. I have to talk to everybody.
Yes.
Talk to the Minister of Finance, talk to my fellow parliamentarians, talk to relevant committees, see what we can do about it. Yeah, I think it's important.
Just like what you said, one time I was driving by around the Senegambia and I was stopped by a police officer that I know, and we were just talking. And he stopped me and told me how he wanted me to talk about their salary scale. This was 2 years ago. And at the end of the day, after our conversation, when he told me that at the end of, after every deduction, he gets home around 2,000 something, and he told me how he was renting. When he gets home, he gives $1,000 to the wife per depends, and he gives 500 to the no, to the rent collector, pour rentam bi. 500 bi moy pour domam bi luncham bi wara school fees am. So what he does every month, what he gets on the streets. Lolu la day jël ko and mu every day mu dem jekali rentam bi pour mu je. So sometimes where we dina dem be day du muna jekal kerok I went home and I was really disturbed. These kind of conversations are important. Because that police officer, the whole day of the house yon bo naaj bangi tanga $2,000 is moy oli luncham to dem restaurant talk leka koku lolu moy salary take home every month. So the gap is really wide. Yes.
Can you believe if I tell you that some of them the police junior staff, their transport allowance is $150.
Wow.
I belong to the Human Rights Committee. Last time we went around the police
it's
station.
human rights abuse.
We went to police stations to look at detention centers, but the discussions sometimes go way beyond that. And these are some of the information we'll be able to have. $150,000 is house transport.
$150
that is 3 days.
Yeah, their transport.
That is 3 days, $50.
You don't want for the junior ones.
You don't want to see some. You don't want to see some of the allowances that the basic.
That's why to review. That's why we need to review the entire salary.
It's not about giving people 100% salary.
Yes,
it's about reviewing and awarding the people that really need it. I think that is what the agenda should be, and I think we're happy that Madi will look at it and go and look at it and see what he can develop out of that. Thank you very much, Madi, and we appreciate anytime we call him, he is here. And we want to thank those of you who gave us stars. Wali Jr., I see Usman, and I see some other people as well. Thank you very much. If you want to support Kerr Fatou, you can always send us stars, especially if you like me. I know they never send any stars to Oli.
I'll get from moment.
They never send any stars to Oli. But thank you very much, and to the entire team, Mustafa, Charles, and Sire. Thank you very much. Good night to you all. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Better and stronger as the sole ground operator at the Banjul International Airport. With an expansion in travel services, customers are assured of GIA's capacity to cater for all their travel needs, provided by professional, experienced, and ever-smiling staff. GIA's Hajj package and services, by far the best in the country, give the customers the opportunity for a memorable Hajj experience. For a more efficient cargo services, GIA means business as it launches its new multi-million-dollar ultra-modern cargo complex to revitalize and stimulate air transport. GIA, the pride of the Gambia.
Every day is a new opportunity to make sure our first impressions are always our best and to see possibilities on the horizon. to make our facilities and services more accessible and find freedom all around us. With a location proximity to active markets, with a liberal air transportation policy, that daily pursuit is how we turn everyday opportunities for you. For all destination marketing support, customized packages for new existing airlines and operators, and for a highly ranked tourist destination, the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority is here to serve. We regulate air transport, operate and manage BIA technical requirements merged with commercial considerations. We have experienced and well-trained aviation professionals to cater for your needs. For investment opportunities in building airport hotels, shopping malls, playground for children, do contact us on 4472-831, 4472-893. Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. We go beyond daily.